All right, so in the second part of this assignment, I have now taken my screenshot of the color combination that I like, and I'm going to make an illustration based on that. So I picked, the first one I did was one of the analogous examples, right, using the Adobe color, and I just happened to pick this combination right here of these colors. I made a quick screen capture, and I opened it up within Photoshop so I can look at it in Photoshop. That way I can apply all the different tools to it, okay? So I've got that image right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new file, go to New File, and I'll create a background that I can actually paint on, right? So I'm going to create that. I can decide what size I want it to be, what kind of background I want. I think this will work just fine. Click Create, and here I have it. So I have these two tabs here, so I can go back and forth between my blank canvas here and my palette. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to just start by picking a color, and I use the eyedropper tool to do that, and notice that that color goes right inside of here. It's been selected, and now I'm going to go to my canvas. Now I could use any of these tools that I want to use for this, right? Anything at all, including text. But what I'll do is, for example, I could go right to the brush, but I think what I'll do is I'll experiment with making some different shapes at first, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to create a little circle here. And I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard so I can add to that. So what I'm going to do is it's going to create a combination of shapes. Of course, you know that if you hold down the Alt key, you can subtract from the actual shape, right? If I hold down the Alt key, I can subtract from the shape as well if I want to, right? So I could make some holes in it or change the siding of it and so forth. So now that I have this here, what I'll do is I'll use my paint bucket tool, and what I'm going to do is go to click right here, and there we go. I filled it in with that particular color, right? And now I can go to deselect it, and I'll go on to something else. So I'll go back to my palette, and I'll pick one of the other colors that are within this. Say, for example, the green. That's there. And now I'll go back to my canvas. And I could do something similar to that. I think I will, but this time maybe I'll use the rectangular marquee tool. And I'll hold down the Shift key so I can maybe make a little staggering series of images here. And then I'll go to the paint bucket tool again. And this time I'll paint it with that other color, right? And I can deselect it also by just clicking outside. So now I might look at this and say, oh, what else do I want to do? Well, I could just continue building with shapes like this, or I could say go to the brush and pick a different kind of, it's good experiment with all these tools and play with them all. There's lots of brushes in here that you can pick. And this time what I'll do is when I've got a brush, I'll go and I'll pick a third color with the eyedropper tool in here, and then I'll go back into my brush, and then I'll start to do something with it, right? So I'll start painting. You can always paint over something if you want, and start to mess with it, right? Now you kind of get the idea. All I'm doing is using the different tools within Photoshop to take bits and pieces of these 5 colors that I've captured off of the Adobe color, and then I end up making my composition and continuing to build it from here. So you would continue this until you fill up your space, fill up your image with your colors, and then of course you would save it, right? Save it, and then save it as a JPEG, right? So that you can then end up putting it on your Google Sites and turning it in with your other examples. Now in this project, you're actually going to do more than one Photoshop file, right? So if we look at the assignment together for just a second, you'll see that what you're going to be doing is actually using the analogous colors from the color wheel that we were just talking about. Then the second one, you're going to use monochromatic, right? And then the third one, you get to pick whichever one you want to do. Any kind of palette that you find on the Adobe website or another palette, get your pick. You get to pick what you want. And then take them all together. You will need to include your swatches, though. I want to be able to see side by side, right? I want to be able to look on your Google site and see, okay, I see your color palette, and then I see your composition. I can see them side by side. So you'll be doing that for all three. And that's the project. Let me know if you have any questions.